I'm Danielle Preistick, your host for today. All materials seen today are linked in the bit.ly on the screen. We're starting a new module and it's going to launch pretty heavy with some standards. So for this one, we're going to start with that week of November 3rd, lessons 1 through 4, and then all block will have 3 lessons for all block. Let's take a look at what that looks like now. All right, as always, we are starting our week with this building background knowledge, this lesson where we make inferences and students begin to engage and get curious about what they're going to learn. As the week continues, we're going to be repeating a couple standards over and over, and they're so tightly wound together that I am going to talk about them together, and you'll see why in just a moment. They're that text structure standard, and it's the summary standard. You'll see that those are the main portions of your lessons throughout the week. Let's take a look at what those standards are asking students to do. This graphic here supports a crucial conceptual understanding that these standards work together. They're not disconnected skills. So in RI 5.5, students need to know the text structure, have text structure knowledge. In RI 5.2, they need to reach to a summary, but they also need to be able to determine 2 or more main ideas and explain how key details support each main idea. This information together will inform how the summary is written. The form of the summary changes based on the text structure. For example, if we have a chronological text here, we're going to have a more sequential summary here. If the text is cause and effect, our summary is really going to show those relationships. If we have a problem solution text, the summary is going to highlight both of those elements. So when you teach summarizing, you must also teach text structure recognition. Students who struggle with summary often lack text structure awareness. These interconnections are why they're taught together in Module 2. In addition to this work, you will have coordinating conjunction work, remember fanboys from letters, that gives signal words to what the text structure knowledge is in order to make a concise summary. These small but mighty words shift meaning in major ways, and they're essential for understanding text organization and for students monitoring for meaning. You may want to keep this posted, this fanboys posted as a scaffold in your classroom or small group until the students have mastered these terms. Let's dig deeper. Let's start with RI 5.2. Here's our standard at the top, and you'll notice that it's broken down into 3 skills, each needing explicit instruction. Skill 1, determine 2 or more main ideas of a text. Skill 2, explain how they're supported by key details. And skill 3, summarizing a text. What does that mean? When readers are reading their text, they come across a lot of details. In those details, key details will pop out. These key details formulate main ideas. Now in 5th grade, we're going to have 2 or more. Using these main ideas and key details to summarize a text, this work builds on skills 1 and 2 because it includes main ideas and how the details support them. You'll notice this work in the criteria for effective summary anchor chart that we'll be using in Module 2. I just want to go back to the standard RI51, and while we're talking about just identifying the structure as important, the actual standard is they have to be able to do that to one text, but then compare it to one or two. So keep that in mind as I continue to talk about just that structure level. Know that the 5th grade standard is to be able to apply it to 2 or more texts. It's recommended when you're analyzing summary to start with, do they understand the main ideas? The main ideas are usually contingent on what the text structure is. So you may want to start with RI55. So if they can't identify a main text structure, there is that anchor chart in Module 2 that's really good that has those clue words. And there's also a NC text structure cue sheet here. And prompt them to look at the words and answer these questions to figure out what kind of text structure it is. You'll notice that RI55 is a very short journey, but it's really not, because we know now that RI55 is so tightly linked, and you'll actually see it in the writing standards, and you'll see it in RI52. So it's kind of living under a new name. And you can see how long you can see RI52 being assessed. So these are other opportunities that you're actually already kind of seeing RI55 as well. I linked the graphic of the skills developing over time for RI52, and then I had a just-in-time support as well. So if your students are not using that text structure to inform the summary main ideas, I've set an explicit teaching model linked here as well. So for some explicit teaching for students when you're analyzing their work, they're not doing this work. Now let's look at all block this week and how it's supporting the work we're doing in modules, which is quite heavy. All right, so that first day in the teacher guided group, you will be working with reading, speaking, and fluency. So each student will have their own excerpt from The Most Beautiful Roof in the World, and you'll differentiate based on their last fluency goals in Module 1. So the purpose of the fluency this time, even though it doesn't specifically say it, is you're explicitly teaching and modeling how you read with punctuation. So remember, in this book, there's a lot of complex sentences, so it's important to really pause at those commas, but also there's dialogue that's happening and shifts in characters that are implied. So it's really important to attend to those, and you can kind of see if they can, based on their tone, if they're actually attending to what it's saying using an inferential of who's talking. So that's an interesting one. All right, and your additional work with complex text, I recommended monitoring L54 because what they're doing is they're taking these word strategies and they're applying it to these complex ideas that are around the complex text sentence. So it's not just at like this surface level, it's using clues with the ideas that are surrounding that sentence, and it is a complex sentence. So lots to unpack there on how things shift at the sentence level. And you're going to wrap up, and I put you're going to need some markers here. You're going to go ahead and you're going to continue that punctuation piece for their fluency over the week and see how they progress. All right, that's it for this week. See you next time.